We arranged this trip all by ourselves, tears streaming down her face. My BIL's wife looked like the heroine of a tragic drama. How dare you try to take credit for someone else's efforts? Despicable. To think that I have someone like you as a family member, even by marriage. How embarrassing. You can't come with us on this trip. My Mel's assault felt overwhelming, so I decided not to go on the trip. But looking back, I think it was the right decision. After all, I knew they'd come crying to me during the trip. Because, my name is Jennifer, I'm 31 years old. I've been living in New York for about 13 years now. My husband, Steven, was my high school classmate. Most people find it surprising, but for me, Steven was my first love. Sure, there were men I found attractive before, but that was it. Never had my heart raced like it did with Steven. Just meeting his eyes made my chest tighten. I worried he might notice my feelings just from that flutter. Yet, our love never came to fruition back then. We both liked each other but never moved past that. I think we both enjoyed being somewhere between friends and lovers. I went to a university in New York, but Steven went to a university in our hometown, so we were separated. As distance grew between us, so did the emotional gap, and before long, he was no longer on my mind. We reunited when I was 28. Jennifer. Aren't you Jennifer? I was having drinks with my colleague after work in a bar. I heard the voice that sounded familiar. After I put my drink on the table, I turned to find Steven. Well, Steven. No way. It's been ages. It really has. I thought I saw someone who looked like Jennifer, but it was actually you. He looked leaner than in high school, and his suit suited him well. Seeing his face brought back all those sweet high school memories, and with it, those feelings. Without realizing, I glanced at his left hand, no ring. It's been what, 10 years? What brings you to New York? Well, I got a new job a few years ago. I live here now. I had no idea. We had so much more to talk about, but that day, we just exchanged contact info. From that night on, we talked daily. Neither of us, now approaching our 30s, ever said, "Will you go out with me?" or confessed feelings outright. It just kind of evolved naturally. After we had been together for about a year, Steven proposed me, and we got engaged. We didn't have a wedding ceremony, and just did a family gathering and a photo shoot. Soon after, we moved into a high-rise apartment. I never thought I'd end up with my first love. Life with Steven was full of happiness, but there was one thing that really bugged me. It was about my BIL's family who lived nearby. Especially his wife, Nancy. She was such an inconsiderate and self-centered nuisance. Just the other day, she did something that irritated me. Out of the blue, she showed up at our apartment with her kid. "Oh good. You're home, Jennifer. Where's Steven? He has work today." Oh my, that must be tough. Well, taking care of a child is 100 times harder, though. Can you look after my child for a bit? I want to go to the hair salon. I sighed deeply inside. She always did this, dropping her child off unannounced. I was planning to relax and maybe watch a movie on my day off. But with the child right there, it was hard to just say no. Okay. I forced a smile and agreed. Thanks. I'll be back in 2 hours. There are toys and snacks in his backpack. I'm off now. She then left, her heels clacking on the floor. I don't mind playing with children. But she could have left her child with her husband if she was just going to the hair salon. Or, if he was busy, she could have hired a babysitter. It wasn't just about the child. She's given me old clothes and furniture, almost forcing them on me, and then asked for money. I just couldn't grow fond of her. She always saw me as someone convenient. She said she'd be gone for 2 hours, but Nancy came back 6 hours later. Without an apology, she just said, "I'll come again," and left with her child. I wouldn't let this happen again. I always thought so, but I could never say no. How much of a pushover was I? Exhausted, I was preparing dinner when Steven came home. "I'm back. Welcome back. You must have had a hard day." But let me tell you about my day. What happened? I explained everything to him. 6 hours. That's unbelievable. You did well. I know, right? I think she went shopping after the hair salon. She had like 4 large shopping bags. I mean, shopping is fine, but she could have called or something, saying she'd be late. Exactly. She never communicates. Come on, have a drink. Steven poured me a beer. After gulping it down, I felt a bit better. Changing the subject, my mom is retiring in 2 months. Really? Is she that age already? His mom, who is tech-savvy and active on social media, seems so young. Hearing that she was retiring was a surprise. Yay. It's weird thinking my mom is at that age. It must be. I have a suggestion. Why don't we take a trip with the whole family? My mom has never been abroad. Sounds good. I instantly agreed, but I actually don't like my Mill very much. Every time I meet her, she persistently asks me, "Aren't you having kids yet? When will you show me my grandchild?" Furthermore, I was pretty sure that by the whole family, he was including my BIL's family as well. I prefer not to go with them, but they were important people to Steven. I swallowed my true feelings without expressing them. You know, international trips have long travel times, and the food is entirely different from what we have in the States. The older you get, the harder it becomes to travel. So, I want to take her while she's still in good health. Steven is so considerate. I love this kind side of him. I bet your mom would be thrilled. I hope so. I'm thinking of choosing Italy as our destination. Can't go wrong with a classic. Let me look into it, and I'll cover all the expenses for this trip. What? Covering all of it? That's a lot of money. No, I can't let you do that. He immediately shot down my offer. I haven't told you, but I have some savings tucked away. Let's use that. But that's what you've been saving up, right? I appreciate the thought, but I can't accept it. He's so kind-hearted. I truly felt blessed to have married him. We can always save up again. Plus, Steven, you still have those student loans, right? I want to help you out, Jennifer. It took me an hour to convince the hesitant Steven, but eventually, we agreed that I would cover all the travel expenses. Little did I know at the time that this trip would completely change our family dynamics. A few months later, today was finally the day of our Italy trip. Steven, are we good on the bus schedule? This is the third time you've checked, right? Come on, we're not kids anymore. We're fine. Oh, come on, you do have your childlike moments. No, I don't. Stop it. That tickles. As expected, we were the first to arrive at the airport. 20 minutes later, my Mill arrived. We waited for an hour, but there was still no sign of my BIL's family. What are they doing? If they miss the flight, that's going to be a problem. My Mill, the star of this trip, was starting to get irritated. Calm down, Mom. I'm sure they'll be here soon. But Steven's attempts to soothe her did little to calm her down. Just as I was thinking of getting some more drinks to kill time, my BIL's family finally arrived at the airport. I'm so sorry for making you wait. Our kid was being fussy, and we couldn't leave on time. It's like he's going through his terrible twos. However, this didn't soften my Mill's demeanor. In fact, she seemed even more furious than before. Nancy, blaming your tardiness on the child is just the pits. You barely made it on time, but if you'd been a bit later, it could have been a disaster. Do you get that? In front of everyone, my Mill scolded Nancy. I'm sorry. She apologized honestly. Tears, real or feigned, streamed down Nancy's face. Then, she said something unbelievable. We arranged this trip all by ourselves. That includes all expenses, plane tickets, hotel, and restaurant reservations. It was quite a challenge looking up in Italian, but we wanted to please you. We were up late last night preparing for this trip, so I'm running on little sleep. She looked like the heroine of a tragic drama as she said this, tears streaming down her face. My Bill and his wife hadn't helped with the trip at all. It didn't bother me, and I felt a sense of purpose and satisfaction in arranging and funding everything by myself. I never wanted them to appreciate me. But I couldn't stand her lying. You guys didn't do anything, right? How can you say such things? I asserted, only to be met with a glare from my Mill. Jennifer, are you trying to say Nancy is lying? She's crying her eyes out. There's no way she's lying. That's fake. I'm the one who paid for this entire trip and made all the reservations. That's enough. My Mill shouted over me. I believe Nancy. How dare you try to take credit for someone else's efforts? Despicable. To think that I have someone like you as a family member, even by marriage. How embarrassing. You can't come with us on this trip for free. I don't want to go on a trip with a mean person like you. Her words pierced my heart, but the pain was magnified by the fact that my mill didn't believe me. While Nancy continued her fake sobbing, the real person who felt like crying was me. As I was lost for words, Stephen came to my defense. Mom, Jennifer is telling the truth. Please believe her. Stephen, you've been negatively influenced by Jennifer. Since you don't have kids yet, why don't you get a divorce? Stephen seemed to come to a realization, turning his back to my mill and making eye contact with me. Let's go home, just the two of us. I got his message from his gaze and with my eyes, responded, let's do that. With forced smiles, we said goodbye to my mill and Bill's family and left the airport. Enjoy your trip. Ignoring my words, my mill and Bill's family proceeded to the security check. The next day, when I checked my phone, there were countless messages. It was the first time I had ever received so many notifications. I hesitantly opened the messages to find they were all from Nancy. As I was about to scroll to the first message, she called. Hello, Jennifer. There's a huge problem. Please help. She sounded angry. What happened? I had a hunch, but I asked for clarity. There are too many cash payments here. My credit card has maxed out and I don't know what to do. Plus, the hotel and restaurants you booked are not in the central city. Why did you pick these places? She seemed to be panicking. From the background, I could hear my mill arguing with my bill and the child crying. I thought the typical tourist spots would be boring. I calmly responded, well, you could have explained that to us. It's messed up here. Explain. Why would I need to? After all, you were up late preparing for the trip, weren't you? And you said you would pay all the expenses. She clicked her tongue and in a low, angered tone, shot back. You're still hung up on the fact that your mill didn't believe you. Grow up. It's embarrassing. So do you. Asking someone else for help at your age. Pathetic. Do your best. Goodbye. Wait. I hung up the phone abruptly and immediately turned off my phone. The thought that Nancy and my mill might regret their actions relieved me. I pictured them looking lost in a foreign country. I have absolutely no intention of helping those who called me a liar. Not now, and not ever. In the end, my mill and Bill's family flew back home that night. Honestly, I was surprised they managed to return safely. But it seemed they couldn't visit any of the major tourist spots or the restaurants I had reserved. To think they didn't even get to see the Colosseum. It was unclear why they even bothered going to Italy in the first place. The next day, I got a call from my mill. Perhaps after the disastrous trip, she finally realized how essential I was. Expecting an apology, I decided to answer her call. Hello. Hello, Jennifer. I heard you hung up on Nancy. Yes, I did. What's wrong with that? I can't believe it. We're family. Why didn't you help? You ruined the trip. Not a single word of apology from my mill, just complaints. It was definitely not my fault they didn't enjoy their trip. But I thought she could only cope by blaming me for their unfortunate vacation. I vowed to myself that this would be the last time I'd have a conversation with her. If Nancy hadn't lied in the first place, none of this would have happened. It's her own fault, and you are equally to blame for not believing me. In fact, I don't even want to think you as my mill anymore. How rude. Do you understand what you're saying? You'll regret it if you anger me further. I really don't care. Your anger doesn't concern me, so please never contact me again. I don't want to be with someone so toxic. Goodbye. After the call, I blocked and deleted my mill's number. I discussed it with Stephen, and we decided to cut ties with my mill and Bill's family. After that, I heard that my Bill and his wife had some problems and ended up divorcing. Nancy moved back to her rural hometown with her child. My mill was furious that her precious grandchild moved so far away. In response, Nancy was equally livid. She declared she'd never let her child see my mill again. Having lost her only source of joy, my mill seems to be living a lonely life in her apartment. Meanwhile, some good news came our way. I got pregnant. Did you bring your Medicare card? And what else? I've got everything. Hey, after the checkup, how about we grab something delicious to eat? Really? Weren't you told off for gaining too much weight recently? Are you sure? It's fine. I've been walking daily. Stephen made a face and gently rubbed my belly. Mom's got quite the appetite, huh? Maybe it's because of our little one in there. Make sure you get lots of nutrients from Mom. We left the house, holding hands. Though it had been raining moments ago, the rain had just stopped. A large rainbow spanned the sky. It seemed like a symbol of our